Hi, we are Claire and Nacho of One Happy Combi. This is the first episode in our series of cool people and their VWs. Today we have Tom Summers and El Rayo. So today we're here with Tom Summers in his garage, and we wanted to hear a little bit about his San Diego Community Power Project. So Tom, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and about the project?
Sure. We are in the process of forming this entity which will be aggregating renewable energy to feed to the grid as a means of competing against the investor-owned utility, which is not getting us to 100% renewable by the time we need to get there, which California has set a date of 2035 to have 100% renewable energy on the grid. So by forming this entity and having several cities join together in it, here in California we feel like we're going to get to 100% renewable much quicker than we would if we only had the single monopoly energy provider.
What setup do you have in your own house?
It is a 7.8 kilowatt hour array, and we can go up and look at it later, but it's certainly enough to power your average size household. Now here we have, well, for instance, my water heater. It used to be gas, a natural gas.
Yeah.
With my system, I produce more energy than I can consume. And I sell it, I don't sell it. I mean, I give it back to the grid, but I don't get anything for it. I just get credits. And so I might as well use it to heat my water.
Yeah.
And so I've switched back to an electric water heater. When the dryer dies, it'll be an electric dryer.
Cool.
At some point, we'll be driving electric. And I'm trying to get ready for that. I have a level 2 charging station. I don't have an electric car yet, but I've charged many electric cars. And my goal is not to build credits up, but to use it. And if I have to, I'll give it away. But at some point, I'll be driving it.
Cool.
Okay, so this house was finished in 2008. Yeah, but I didn't put the panels on until 2015. I already had panels on the other house, but that house wasn't built, the roof line wasn't built to accommodate a nice solar array, but it has, I believe, 28 panels. They're 60 watts. So fast forward to 2015, we got panels that are 270 watts. I think there's the same number of them. I think there's 29 here, 14 and 15 over here. So this house has some west facing. And that's to take advantage of the, because of what we were talking about earlier about peak hours. So I get a nice shot of afternoon sun. California. So California has formed these energy districts all over the state. We're not the first, we're actually number 24. But we will be the second largest by virtue of the fact that we have the city of San Diego with us. We are 5 cities. Imperial Beach, which is the smallest, our neighbor Chula Vista, La Mesa and Encinitas, which are a little bit further away, and the biggie, San Diego.
Cool.
Between all of these 5 cities, we will have 700,000 or 800,000 customers, residential customers. We're not starting with them just yet. We're starting small. We started last month with our municipal accounts in the 5 cities, and we will begin in June with the business accounts, the commercial and industrial accounts, and we will roll out the residential accounts at the 1st of next year, January 2022.
Cool. And why don't you tell us a little bit about these?
Well, these are, in case you don't know, are Tesla power walls, and they're not the only energy storage appliance available, but they're one of the biggies. And this is how you store your solar power to get you through the night. And if you want to be completely off grid, you can do it with storage batteries. It's been demonstrated all over the world. Remaining grid connected is a bit of a challenge because we have peak energy usage hours, and so you definitely want to use your sunlight that you've been gathering throughout the day to get you through peak, which here is 4 until 9. And that's when, if you're using energy from the grid, you're going to be paying more for it. And so with storage batteries, you not only get you through the peak hours, but it gets you through the night. And if you're consuming more than you produce, you're going to pay for it. And if you're producing more than you consume, you'll be building credits.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about this, and you've been talking about different analogies available now versus ideal technologies. For example, Bill Gates' nuclear technology and the Tesla packs that are being used in VW or in all electric conversions for different types of cars, not just Teslas. So would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, let me just say that unless you're really wealthy, you don't really jump into this all at once. So I built the house a few years ago. I built it with a south-facing roof so that I could take advantage of sun. And then, you know, fast forward, I started to make these changes, switching water heaters. At some point, we started offering rebates for battery storage. So I took advantage of that, and I've had these 2 batteries installed. Actually, I installed the charger before I did the storage batteries. And I guess a good point to keep in mind is that at some point in the near future, we're going to be driving our batteries around. And so we may even get to the point where we don't even need power walls. We'll be able to access the stored energy in our vehicles, that two-way charging in what they call V2G, or vehicle to grid. We're not there yet, but we're developing the software for it, and it's coming at us really fast. What's not coming fast, I'm not sure if I know exactly what it is that Bill Gates is talking about, but it's not here. This is here. The sun has been here since the beginning of time, our time. And you know, we have been using solar power since the very beginning, but it goes through the plants and animals first, and it has to stay dormant in the earth until it turns from that form of carbon into the other form of carbon that we can burn, and in the process spoil our air and our planet. This is becoming, it's no longer a political issue, or it shouldn't be. It's an existential issue for all of us.
Was there an epiphany moment for you, and how did you sort of get connected with this project?
There was a couple of moments, but the first one was the first calculator that I had back in whenever I was a kid, and it turned on when you put it under the lamp. And I was just, that has stayed with me since the beginning. Then we got into the 60s. We all know what that was about. I was running through the 60s with my hair on fire, yelling power to the people, and you know, all of that crazy stuff of the 60s. I somehow managed to survive. But that phrase, power to the people, just kept ringing in my ears. And it's the sun. It's the sun from which all power comes. It's my higher power.
Let me ask another question from behind the camera. You mentioned converting your dryer to electric. It's obviously already electric, so can you explain a little more what you mean by,
Oh,
you know?
well, it's electric and natural gas. It turns on and spins with electricity. but the heat comes from the gas hose. So in California, we're heavily reliant on natural gas. And every home and building has been plumbed up for the use of natural gas. And so we are at that moment where certain jurisdictions are making building codes eliminating gas. And it's a goal to eliminate fossil fuels from our day-to-day needs. Whether we're drying our clothes, washing our hands, turning on our lights, or driving our car. We're getting away from that, and it doesn't matter what you believe. This is happening. It's going to be our very near future. 2035 is only 14 years away. We've got some work to do to get there, but we have the means to do it. Now, there are other ideas floating around, and it's not just nuclear. Many people are talking about introducing hydrogen into the natural gas grid. And many of appliances are now being built to burn that mix of carbon-based natural gas infused with hydrogen, which comes from, by the way, electrolysis, which is electric. By running electricity through water, we get oxygen and hydrogen. So, but it's not there yet. And many people talk about trucks and ships and bigger energy users that are going to need the kind of energy that we could get from hydrogen, but we just have not worked it out. As far as the storage of it, liquid hydrogen is going to be the same as liquid natural gas. It has to be refrigerated to hundreds of degrees below zero. It doesn't matter if we're talking about centigrade or Fahrenheit. It still has to get really, really cold and stay cold in order to transport it and then use it. So what we do have right now is what we've always had. Bob, big orange ball.
Tom, you've been talking about power for the last couple minutes, and you're obviously super connected to the Volkswagen world. Are the two related? Do you have any connection between both worlds?
Yeah, there's a big connection, and the connection didn't grow overnight, but it has knitted itself together significantly this past couple of years. I've had these air-cooled VWs all of my adult life. I also drive a more modern car, a VW TDI, which was part of the Dieselgate scandal recall in 2015. Now, after a few years, Volkswagen has decided to go all electric. And I want to incorporate those advantages of an electric vehicle into my air-cooled lifestyle.
Right. And you're sitting here in front of your nice South American bus called El Rayo. How did you end up being the owner of this bus, and what are your plans for it?
I had already planned to acquire a Brazilian bus. I have some friends in South America, and a couple of people that I didn't know were traveling north from Uruguay with this bus. In Mexico, they met some friends of mine who said that they should come to this area and possibly meet up, and they did. They came to our Tuesday night VW gathering just a few miles from here in Chula Vista, and I asked them, "So where are you staying?" "We don't know yet." And I go, "Well, we're staying at my house then." El Rayo showed up, and it's been here ever since. They had been on the road for almost 2 years. They were homesick. They were trying to sell the bus, and they were asking a very favorable price, and I acquired the bus, and it's going to be electric. And I knew going into this that it was going to be very difficult to register it in California. It's a 1993, and in California we smog all of our vehicles they're manufactured after 1975. El Rayo is not registered yet, but I feel very strongly that when it is all electric, that California will grant me a registration. It's one thing to begin manufacturing all cars electric now, but what do we do with all the cars that we already have? And the ironic thing about the Volkswagen architecture with the engine in the back and the transaxle that drives the rear wheels is that you can take this really obsolete engine out and replace it with an electric motor with the use of an adapter. And so there's a tremendous advantage to this type of vehicle being converted. But it's not the only ones. Rear engine air-cooled Volkswagens are not the only ones that are being converted. In San Diego has become a hotbed of electric vehicle innovation. We have several companies here that are doing it all the time. And one of them is EV West, another one is Z Electric. There are others. It's not easy and it's not cheap, but it is doable by us, the common people, the Volks.
Right. The community.
Yeah.
Nice. And what do you think about the name? Was it named by the previous owners? Or?
This is where it gets very ironic, because El Rayo acquired its name from the previous owner, and they stuck the little stickers on both the front and back window. El Rayo is Spanish for lightning, and it was probably got that name because of a lack of speed, but it's perfect. It's yellow, it's going to be electric, it's going to be cleaned up, and it's going to be a moving spokesman for what we're trying to do, which is electrify our mobility. You know, California's building a high-speed rail connection. It's going to be electric. We are in the process of electrifying our transportation system. I'd like to also add that the company I retired from built the world's first 2 electric hybrid tugboats. And so we can do this. We are doing it. It's happening all around us. It's not going to be long before the semi-trucks on the roads are electric. Delivery companies, they're buying huge numbers of electric delivery vehicles, including VW. They're coming out with their electric delivery vehicle before they come out with their camper passenger version, because we know that is going to be taken up, adopted by industry. I might add that they'll probably all be autonomous. That's coming also quickly. Yeah. Change is coming quickly, yes. And I want to be a part of it.
Great. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned you're the owner of the Golf TDI recall that was recalled in 2015. And you also mentioned previously that you were invited to test drive the ID4. Yeah. So, combining those two elements, what is your opinion of VW's new commercial strategy with the all-new electric lineup and, you know, their position next to Tesla today and coming into the future?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to take note of the fact that VW had a crisis of confidence and a crisis of their basic economic model. Having to recall their entire fleet of TDIs because of a very regrettable and rather sophomoric mistake in regards to emissions, by all accounts, cost them billions of dollars. They've been mandated to spend a lot of money in the United States because of that stunt, and it brought them to their knees. Now, I'm not here to beat up on VW, but I think we're all going to look back on that and say it was a blessing, because it woke them up to the new realities of all electric lineup in their model line. Some of the other outfits have done it before them. I believe Volvo was one, but virtually every automobile manufacturer on the planet is planning for the all-electric future. In fact, I could see a future where the only gasoline-powered vehicles left on the road are the classic VWs, because we can make them run forever. Right. Not without a lot of work, and a lot of headaches, a lot of breakdowns, but and like I say, these are iconic vehicles, but you also need a modern car as a daily driver. And between these vehicles, this one, the TDI parked in front, yeah, we got everything covered. I foresee electric camper vans. Our friend Jehu Garcia is building a fleet of electric split window buses. There will be a charging station at your campsite. There will be charging stations everywhere. They're sprouting up in apartment buildings, your place of work, shopping, wherever you go, you're going to have access to a charging station. The anxiety of finding a charging station close by that works will gradually dissipate. It's an issue now. If you're planning to go cross country, you pretty much have to figure out where you're going to charge.
A lot of these conversions are done either with Tesla modules or Jehu is making them with manufacturing his own battery packs. Do you think other automotive companies will come out with battery modules that could be used, or are they too focused on just getting a vehicle in the market?
You know, I can't speak to what some of the other methods of building the battery modules are. I know that Tesla started out with the same batteries that are in the Powerwall, the 18650s, and a lot of other companies used 18650s for their electric bikes, skateboards, scooters, a lot of stuff. You could buy a juice pack, it's got 18650s in it. But that's not the only game in town. There are many other forms of batteries. And by the way, I should say that lithium ion batteries and the non-lead acid batteries are such a game changer for everything, because you can use virtually 100% of the stored energy, and that energy is dense. It's very dense. We've all lifted or tried to lift a lead acid battery, and we've all experienced a dead battery. There's a lot of people that are now making lithium ion batteries in the same form as the lead acid battery. And you can certainly put more than one in your EV or your boat, or doesn't have to be in this shape. It can be in any shape, and that's the beauty of he's getting secondhand batteries, which are like 95% still good, and putting them together using the series and parallel formations to build battery packs in virtually any size and shape to any voltage. So when you convert something, you've got to decide which motor you're going to go with and which voltage you want to use as your system. And you can build battery packs. EB West is building a battery pack that it's got 6 Tesla modules in it, and it fits in the same place that your gas tank fits in a normal VW bus. And the motor will fit underneath. And those things are about 100 to 120 miles of range, of real world range. And I know people that are also incorporating twice that, which is 240 miles. Well, these things were only meant to run 200 miles or 220 miles, more or less, to begin with. And who wants to sit in their car for 700 miles anyway? So, I mean, the TDI will go 600 or 700 miles. It went a little bit farther before they got busted. But after they modified it, you know, went from about 46 miles per gallon down to, you know, 43 or so. But it's a comfortable car, and you could probably, you know, go for several more hours. Whereas a vehicle like this, 120 miles is okay.
Then you start shifting around.
Yeah, 200 miles is even better. But yeah, I'd be happy with 120 miles to start with. I also fantasize about perhaps a second pack that I could put on my roof rack for a longer trip.
Well, if the engine is not in the way of
well,
the fuel tank,
you know, I was thinking I could hang it from the overhead, you know, charge it up off of my solar, and use it when I needed it.
Yeah.
And it could also be another Powerwall. You know, that's the thing. We got to keep this in mind. Is energy is now transportable. You can, you know, use it and then gather more. It's the same way as your panels. Your panels are nothing more than a commodity. The hardest part of a solar installation is the racking system.
Not the wiring is what you mean. Yeah.
Not the wiring. Anybody who can run a screw gun and plug wires together can install solar. If you have a roof, you need to get panels on it. And in the beginning, we wanted to have south-facing panels, but panels are getting better and better, and cheaper. When I put solar on the first house, those panels were 60 watts. That was in 2001 or 2. Fast forward to 2020, These panels are the same size and they're 270 watts. And I didn't even get the latest and greatest. We can get panels that are now up to 450 watts. I believe the first 500 watt panels are probably being developed as we speak.
You were telling us about how you were invited to the advisory committee.
Yeah, so I've been involved in this VW scene for a while, and I've owned them most of my life. We have a club here in San Diego called San Diego Air Cooled, and we've participated in a lot of events, and we've actually started having a show here in Imperial Beach. And I have provided some VWs for different occasions for the city and the mayor and the city council. And at some point they learned that I was interested in solar. I had solar on my house, and this was a passion of mine, and so I got invited to participate in this process of forming San Diego Community Power. That's what we've been doing this past year during the lockdown, and we are up and running. At the same time, I've been trying to accumulate the parts, the components to electrify this bus. There's this current of, air-cooled Volkswagens that runs through my renewable energy passion. They're really connected. I think that there's no problem with that. It's a very easy car to convert to electric. Not that easy, but it is doable, and it's being done. It's being done everywhere. It's big in Europe. There's guys down in South America that are doing it. There are guys right across the border in Mexico that are doing it. Everywhere there's VWs, which is almost the entire planet, people are considering doing it. For one reason, they love these things. We're in love with it. A lot of us people that go to the shows and have cars that we are participate in cruises and caravans have a real love affair with these things. And a few years ago we started doing some of our events with Volkswagen of America. They would participate with us, and so I got a chance to get acquainted with a few of the folks that work with their marketing department for the vintage vehicles. And so this all goes together.
And when you said this bus would rolling promotional object,
I hope so. Yeah.
In what way do you want to?
Well, I mean, first of all, VW buses are so noticeable. You know, they're eye magnets for people, and
ear magnets too.
Yeah. Well, you know,
before converting them.
They're not perfect cars, but there's so many of them, and like yesterday, I was parked downtown, and I mean, I was mobbed by tourists that wanted to take pictures of the bus and wanted me to take pictures of them standing next to my bus. So we know that exists. So why not use it?
Tom, as the owner of a solar array, a battery pack, and soon an electric vehicle, and also as the advisor of San Diego Community Power, what would be your recommendations or lessons learned that you would like to communicate to people outside of California or even outside of the US who want to implement a community power co-op?
I guess my advice would be to see what your present regulatory situation is. Many of these utilities were granted monopoly status over 100 years ago, and they're very well entrenched. Taking them on is not going to be easy. We can all make little steps towards reducing our carbon footprint and taking advantage of this free energy that shines down upon us. So my advice, I guess, would be to stay proactive, advocate for change, but at the same time be the change, which is don't waste it and harvest it if you can. We have the ability to start with one panel, and we can convert that DC energy into AC, perfect sine wave AC energy on our homes, on our vans, our RVs, our boats. If you've got a place to put a panel, I would say invest in a panel. If you've got a place for two, start with one and save for the second one. In the beginning, see, we didn't have these microinverters, and so we had to have a whole array, and then we had to convert or invert that DC to AC. Now we see that we could probably run our homes the same way we run our cars and boats, with DC. So learn Ohm's law and learn how to get started. Two avenues I advocate: reduce your waste and start harvesting and using your excess.
Great.
What do you think the implications for the San Diego community are? So what do you think, as an advisor for this power project, you guys are giving back to the community?
Applied for and got a $50+ million line of credit to start buying renewable energy from producers, larger producers that are already established. They're already selling their energy to the incumbent utility, so we're buying it from them. They were in the business of just having it on standby because the utility was using their own carbon fossil fuel fired energy first. So since our model is to use renewable energy as our mainstream product, we have been buying and procuring commitments to supply energy for San Diego Community Power. And as the revenue begins to come in, which it's already started, we started 1st of March, 1st of April, bills go out. We're in the middle of April right now. I would imagine some of those folks are paying their bills. So this money is coming in, and we're going to procure more power as we pick up more customers. And we feel that we can deliver a greener mix of energy at a cheaper price, and we're going to plow as much of that back into the community as we can. We're going to start installing more solar on more roofs. We're going to hire locally. We're going to pay prevailing wage. We're going to start more projects. You'll see more parking lots covered with solar panels. You'll see more young people trained to install them. You'll see more adoption of this commodity that's just been shined down upon us but not necessarily used.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Tom.
you very much. I loved it. I think it's extremely interesting, and hopefully, we can spread the word.
We have met so many cool people and their VWs on our travels. Thank you, Tom, for letting us do this interview. If you would like to find out more about San Diego Community Power, please check the link below. And if you would like to find out more about us, click the link to our travel series and follow us along our adventure.